Hey guys, welcome back. It's me, Gimpy, and I'm here with something a little different for you. You guys have heard me talk about Xwing previously, and I've mentioned it in the process of some of my other videos. And you guys know I really like the game. I've been playing it for a while, and Xwing is massively popular right now. They're getting ready to go through some changes, though. They're getting ready to switch over to the 2.0 format, and because of that, I decided I'm going to go ahead and start covering a little bit of it myself. I've gotten permission from some of the local store owners to actually take and record some of the tournaments that they have there and take and put them up for you guys so you can watch videos. Actually, in the background, you'll see I'm just going to have some random pictures floating through that I took at a tournament that was held at a store called Game Theory, not too far from me. I didn't actually get to play in this tournament. I wanted to, but my schedule just didn't allow for it. But I have loved this game for a while. I got into it. I saw some videos on YouTube way back in the day, and it got me excited. And for those of you who haven't played the game, real basic down dirty of it is you see that you have all the different iconic Star Wars ships and some not so iconic Star Wars ships. And you'll have these templates, little movement templates that you'll put at the front of the ship, and then you'll move the ship to the end of it. And depending on whether or not you're in range, you'll roll attack dice, and then the defender will roll defense dice, and you try to score hits on your opponent and take them out. Now, it's a lot more complicated than that. There's, upgrades and different missiles and bombs and special powers and all this other stuff that you can take and use with it. And all these people you see in the background there taking and using all these things to compete in this tournament. Actually, the guy you see on screen right now, that's the guy that ended up winning the tournament. Real goofy looking guy, ain't he? No, I'm just picking. He's a buddy of mine named Chad. Real good guy. That's one of the things I've noticed about the Xwing community is they're very, very friendly, open, welcoming. Everybody is just as nice as they can be. It is one of the most welcoming communities I've ever been a part of. The wargaming community as a whole is pretty open and welcoming to new players, but Xwing really just takes it to a new level. I've met very few players that I would not play with again. There's only a couple that I can think of that just irritate the hell out of me, but anyway, we're not discussing that. Xwing had an issue that is called power creep, and it happens in a lot of different games. The way Fantasy Flight Games makes their money is they release expansions, new ships for the game. And it got to the point that the older ships couldn't really be competitive anymore, and the newer stuff they were releasing was having to be new and exciting and some cool special ability, but then someone would figure out a way to put together the right combination of upgrade cards that would give them some type of game-breaking advantage, not necessarily game breaking, but it would become the meta. Anyone who's played in tournament type situations will understand what I'm talking about. The it list that people will be flying, and that just kept rotating and kept getting more and more powerful. And what really started to get to people, and I heard it every time I was playing with people, is that you never saw the iconic Star Wars stuff. Not long after the game was released, you didn't see T-65s, just regular X-Wings in the game anymore. You barely saw those. Once T-70s, the ones from the Force Awakens, were released, those were the only things that people would fly if they flew them. You didn't see TIE Fighters, you didn't see Y-Wings. Most of the iconic stuff really wasn't getting flown, and people would just fly whatever the newest hit piece was. You combine that with the fact that they ended up finally doing a real errata, because for the longest time they fought to not take and have an errata that went against what was physically written on the card, because there were some issues with some of the cards that had given people upgrades, and they were trying so hard to make it to where any errata they put out didn't change what was on the cards, because then it wouldn't match up to what people physically had in their hands, and they'd have to start printing out FAQ sheets to keep track of everything. Well, it finally got too far with the power creep, and they ended up having to take and issue out an errata that did take and change what was written on the card. And once they did that, it just opened the floodgates, and errata poured out And it got to the point where when I was playing with people, we would either have to have the list or look things up because we couldn't trust what we were looking at anymore. If you've been playing for a while, you could generally kind of keep track of it. But for people like me who have a bad memory, my head injury makes it to where it's hard for me sometimes to remember things. And then you combine that with a game like this where it has hundreds of cards, and now a good chunk of them, what they actually physically say, doesn't matter anymore. Well, that ended up leading to 2.0. So 2.0 is them releasing a basically entirely revamped version of the game, correcting some mistakes that they've made along the way, changing it from having just small and large bases to having small, medium, and large bases, and including some of the things that are on the what are those things called? The little cardboard cutouts that go on the base of the ship to show their stats, including some more stuff on that, changing the way turrets operate, including new aspects to the game like Jedi Force powers that have never been involved with it. They've even changed the dial itself because so many people were buying and having to use the upgrade dials. Because the upgrade dials, actually I'll have it on screen so you guys can see the some of the new stuff for 2.0. You could see the entire dial, the entire movement dial with the upgraded version, but the basic version covered it up with the exception of what specific move you had lined up to show, and it made the game a lot easier if you could see all the potential moves available to you instead of having to scroll through your little dial as you went through. So they've changed that around. They've made a whole mess load of changes with it, and one of the biggest is the fact that the game is going to operate off of a app system now instead of purely just off of cards and things like that. There were a lot of third-party support for apps for making lists that you were going to compete with, but now none of the pilot cards, none of the upgrade cards, none of that stuff is going to have a direct point cost listed on it. It's going to all be controlled by this app. That way, any corrections that need to be done, because sometimes they realize afterwards that a ship's cost was a little too high or was a little too low, but they'd already released the cards, so they couldn't really change it. This is back before they were doing the hardcore errata changes, so they were kind of stuck with it, and a lot of ships ended up not seeing play, like Boba Fett's ship, Slave 1, never really got a whole lot of play after it was first introduced, because it was a very expensive ship. You could usually get it and one, maybe two other things on the board, and it didn't have the kind of staying power to really make it worth it. I had a buddy who flew a couple of those around, and he did okay with them, but they didn't do any good once you got into more of the power creep. Regardless, this has been a blessing and a curse to people who've been playing it for a while. In my gaming group, a lot of people have taken and just said, nope, I'm done. I'm not going to do this. I've bought so much of this stuff over the years, and now they're telling me that all the stuff that I've purchased previously, with the exception of the ships themselves, is no longer good. They're releasing new versions of everything. And that bothered people, and some people are happy with it because they do see that the power creep happened, and this will make it easier to be able to make adjustments and to have a errata that isn't, focused in an FAQ, and make the game flow a little bit smoother. So there's been ups and downs, but I see this as an overall improvement. I do think that they are taking the right step to help themselves out. I don't like the having to purchase a conversion kit, which is $50 per faction. So if you had all three factions, Scum, Rebel, and Imperial, if you had all three, then you have to spend $150 just to take and convert over to the 2.0 version. All right, that's minimum entry if you're doing it for all three. If you're doing it for one faction, you could get by with $50. It's a little high, but I think they really are trying to get that down as low as possible to get people to come in, because the amount of stuff that's supposed to be in these conversion kits, if they were charging more of a retail price for just the amount of stuff, I believe the price would be higher. So I do think they've tried to get it as low as they could to take and get as many people to make that conversion switch over as possible. Like I said, I think it's going to be an overall good thing. People will be able to create lists right there on the app. They can take and adjust point costs. They can adjust upgrades. They have a whole bunch of new skills and new things that are coming into it. They're planning on releasing other factions. Right now, like I said, there's Scum, Imperial, and Rebel. They're planning on separating out the Resistance and First Order into their own factions. And then they're even talking about bringing... damn, I'm blanking out. The ones from the prequel movies. The Galactic Republic and the Separatists. There it is. Damn, I'm a Star Wars fan. I should know this shit. They're planning on them having their own factions. So I see this as an overall good thing. It is going to be a painful transition. I think they're going to lose players, but they're going to gain other players. So my whole purpose of making this video in the first place is just kind of give people a heads up of what's coming. If you've thought about trying out Xwing previously, now would be the time to get into it. It's releasing later this month. Don't buy any of the old stuff. Wait until 2.0 releases and just jump in there. You're going to take and get into basically the ground floor of the game again. All right. So if there's ever been a game out there that you thought, oh, I wish I could have, started that way back when it first started, well, now you can. It really is kind of a new game all over again that some players will have a little bit more experience with. But if you've been looking at it, you've seen videos, you've heard people talk about it, absolutely jump into it. It is an excellent game. I've thoroughly enjoyed it in my entire time. And like I said, the community is welcoming as hell. Anyone who comes up and talks to us, when I first started, I just walked into the store on the night that the Xwing guys met, said, hey, do you guys mind if I play with you? And they're like, yeah, sit down and play. Hey, here's some special... cards we got at a previous tournament. Just real cool people, and I've done the same now to other new players who've come along. So definitely check that out if you can. I will have, like I said, some tournament play. Kind of debating on how it's going to work. I'm going to record it and try to do a voiceover. We're just going to have to see how it pans out. I've never done any live action play, tournament style play before. But I've seen other people who have done the live streaming of Xwing tournaments, and with 2.0 coming up, like I said, I've got a store lined up that's going to have a tournament not too long after it releases. I'm going to record it, throw it up on the channel, and just see how my editing skills work and my overlays to see if I can put up a good video for you guys that you guys will enjoy. Alright, but that's going to be it for me. I just wanted to point out to you guys what you can look forward to. And like I said, if you've thought about trying out Xwing previously, definitely look into it. Now's the time, especially with 2.0 right there around the corner. You're pretty much being able to jump into the ground floor of a good game with a good community, and it's not expensive. You buy a base kit and a few expansions, you can be fully competitive in any tournament for well under $100 right out the door. You can't do that with 40K or some of the other miniatures games that are out there, but with Xwing, yeah, you can easily do that and have a great time. Alright, but that's going to be it for me. You guys take care. I will catch you in the next one.